All right. Good evening, everybody. It is about 9 o'clock here on the mountainside of the United States of America. And with that comes some beautiful charts for, inshallah, a beautiful week. First and foremost, we're looking at NVIDIA. Why are we looking at NVIDIA instead of SMCI to begin with? Because we have earnings for NVIDIA. Earnings, I think, on Thursday after the bell. So, NVIDIA the past month has gone from, a ridiculous, let's see, today is the 19th. The closing price was 581.93, so about 582. We found ourselves almost $200 higher within this 1 month. So, anything can happen here. As we know, AI has been just one of the biggest themes of the market, kind of like how the EV bubble was, right? And I'm calling it a bubble because, sure, it's going to continuously advance. Sure, we're going to have amazing and new opportunities in terms of higher technology. However, eventually this bubble has to burst, right? Eventually we will see some downside. Do I think NVIDIA beats earnings? Of course, absolutely. I definitely think they beat earnings. Who knows? They may even go for that $1,000 mark, right? All the way up here. It's 100% a possibility, especially with what we've been seeing with SMCI, right? So premiums are going to be extremely expensive on this name. I'm expecting $2,000 to $3,000 close to the money, right at the money, rather. Per contract. So I don't know if I'll be trading it necessarily. We'll be looking at more sympathy names today, but I just wanted to give an overall general view of what I think is going to happen. And I do think that they beat, and I don't think that the market is ready to cool down in terms of this AI theme. And as we know, semis have been absolutely murdering the entire scene of the market. So, honestly, for this specific name, I'm just looking for the 718 to either get retested and to hold, or I'm looking for a break of this 718 to retest this 710 area. 710 area, honestly, I see us going back down to that 694.78 level, 695. But above that, however, above this, rather, there's a couple levels we have to visit, right? They're not all marked right now. 730, obviously, just being a psych level. It's a whole number, right? 730 to 734. Then 734 break. Honestly, I really do think that we end up testing the 740, which would make sense. That 740 taking us up to the 745. And then, 746 and back into price discovery mode for all-time highs. That's kind of what I'm expecting. Now, if this 695 decides to break, then we should see some relatively good downside, and it should be very fast, as we saw with SMCI, which we'll get into also. But underneath this 695, we see this 685. Underneath that 685, I believe we see this 675 first, and then potentially, and more than likely, this 672.40 area down to this 665. So 665 is really what I'm looking for. If we end up breaking to the downside, I think that would be a relatively good level for us to bounce at. So yeah, that's kind of all that I'm looking for on NVIDIA. Again, the premium for this specific name, the premiums for this specific name are going to be extremely expensive. However, looking at these next sympathy plays, we should see some opportunity. So that's really what I see for NVIDIA going into earnings this week. So one of the sympathies, if it wasn't already pretty obvious, that we're going to be looking at for NVIDIA ER is SMH, right? This is a semiconductor ETF. Obviously, it goes up when semiconductors tend to move up, and it goes down when semiconductors tend to move down. So What are we looking at here? So we saw a big break of this 195 area that proved to be just a level of big resistance, right? We came up, we retested it, and then we ended up going down and retesting this 183 area. What did we end up tapping? 184.16, right? So we ended up getting a 10-point move based off of just this rejection. So what does that tell us? The next time we come to break over it, we need to retest, we need to consolidate above or just around this level in order for us to have more upside. Unfortunately, we didn't get that, but when we did, we ended up moving all the way past and to this 200 level, right? After this 200 break, it's kind of just free game. This is going to go wherever semiconductors go, but also wherever the market goes. If the market is strong, then the majority of names are going to be strong, especially names that trade, or especially basket names, right? Like SMH, AMD, NVIDIA, SMCI, all of these different companies. So, and this obviously just gives us an overall view of how well that basket of stocks specifically is doing. So, what are we looking at here? Personally, I do see maybe a cup and handle on this 1 hour chart, right? We may actually be looking to break back out, possibly into all-time highs as we are retesting trend here. That's kind of what I see. However, everything kind of just depends on NVIDIA's earnings. Everything that has to do with semiconductors this week is going to be specifically based around how well NVIDIA beats their earnings, in which, again, in my opinion, they do end up beating their earnings, right? So, price discovery mode after that, well, not, I guess, necessarily price discovery mode. We have seen these levels before, but I would love a test of this 210 level leading us up into that 211, obviously, and then this 216.33 level. That's realistic. Excuse me. That's realistically what I'd like to see for this week. However, if we end up breaking this trend, I would like to see a retest of this 200 level, right? And that 200 level needs to hold. This would be probably the biggest retest for SMH for the time being, as NVIDIA, assuming NVIDIA does beat their earnings, then this should, take off along with it. So this 200 retest is going to be extremely important. If we do end up getting it, we do need to hold above that. If not, then I definitely think that we do see this 198.36 level down to this perfect level right here, down to this 196.98, 197 level. Below that, we will retest that 196 level, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for on SMH. Just, again, a general overview. As a sympathy, quote unquote, for NVIDIA. Now, a hold of this trend line, a hold of 200. I would love to see a retest of this 204 level. Above that, I would like to see this 205 level. 205 leading us into this 206, I guess, from 206 to 207, and then 207 possibly to this 210 to 211, right? That's just what I'm seeing for the upside. Now, if we do end up breaking this 196 level, I think we will drop pretty sharply, and we will drop pretty hard down into this 194, possibly even retesting this 190 level, right? Again, it all is really dependent on NVIDIA's earnings. So that's kind of what I see for an overall general view of semis currently, and what I see specifically for SMH. Now, here's a name that I have been speaking on very often lately, as this 197.12, just like I mentioned in the previous video, has been that specific level. In order for us to break up, in order for us to break down, and I mean, breaking above it, closing above it has obviously given us very, very big highs. Breaking down below this level has given us relatively healthy lows. So that 197 level continues to still be in play regardless of what happens. If we do end up going down to retest it and we do end up holding it, we should see another big push back up into this 200 range. However, if we end up not retesting it for the time being and we just retest 200, watch for this 200 level to hold, as this is a big psych level for IWM, just in general, right? Now, what I do see here personally, again, would be a cup and handle, right? Here's the cup coming back up, and then the handle, the retest, or I'm sorry, the false breakdown, right? And breaking back up, you know, possibly surpassing this 204.03. I mean, as we know, and as we could see here, this 204 level has been a very hard level for us to hold above. When we have held above it, we haven't held above it for long. So this 204 level is going to be a big level that's in play for us, along with this 200 level. And above that, honestly, I would like to see a break of this 205 as we tapped it perfectly, right? Within this specific range is what I'd like to see. 205, 50 break. Honestly, we probably could see this 208.25. There probably are some levels in between here. 205.78, potentially this 206.71, 207.34, and then this 208.25. So that's kind of what I see for IWM. SMCI is IWM's biggest holding also. So just keep that in mind when you decide to trade this name, as there could be a big move that happens along with SMCI. As we saw this past Friday, SMCI was down 20%, nearly $200 in one trading session. Unfortunately, I did not catch. There were a couple people in the Discord, however, who ended up making a fat profit, right? So we'll get into SMCI right after this chart. But again, a retest of this 200, a hold above it. I do think that we end up breaking this 205 level. That's just my opinion. If we do end up breaking below, we should retest this 197.12 level right here. Sorry, this 198.64 level also obviously is extremely important to us. So if we break this 200 level, 198.64, then this 197.12. That's realistically what I see for a breakdown. And for a breakup, you know, a retest of this 200 is needed for this 204 break, leading into that 205 break. Once we get over 205.21, I do think that we see a bigger move to the upside at 205.21 into the previous levels that I mentioned a little while ago, into this 208.25. So that's kind of all that I see for IWM. Okay, so I know this is fucking crazy, right? We have seen an insane, that's not even, I don't think, the right terminology for this move. We have seen an absolutely fucking monstrosity of a move to the upside since when? What day was this? January 24th. Less than a month ago. The low of this stock was $339. I need you guys to understand that these moves happen once, maybe every couple years. The last time we saw a move like this was with GameStop and AMC. It's that type of fucking move. You will never see this again for another couple years, more than likely. You might see it with some penny stocks, stuff like that, but with a fucking blue chip like this, with a mega cap like this, it's very, very rare, right? So we saw it with Nvidia, and excuse all of these lines. I'm looking at my at my OBS, and these lines just look super fucking ugly. But with that being said, I mean, all of the levels hit, everything makes fucking sense. But my God, we are up nearly $700, if not more, in less than 1 month. So just want to emphasize that and literally stress the fuck out of that, because it just does not make any sense. But what we did end up seeing on Friday was a $200 move to the downside, right? Where do I think it goes from here? Honestly, everybody's going to tell you it's going to continue to go down. We saw the same thing happen with Tesla a couple years ago. When Tesla hit its all-time highs, like 1,200, something like that, we ended up seeing a massive sell-off just for it to go back to its all-time highs and peak even higher. That's personally what I think happens with SMCI, is we do end up seeing another move to the upside. And again, entirely dependent on Nvidia's earnings, but there is a very high probability that we end up bouncing back to the upside. People may be scared to continuously buy, which, I mean, makes fucking sense, right? When you move $700 in less than a month, I mean, everybody would kind of be scared to buy. So, with that being said, what do I see? I think that a move over this 810, in which we did move over. What was our close on Friday? Our close was 817. So, honestly, I think over this 810, we should see this 835 level, 835 leading into this. Oh, this is a huge level right here, 867.28. If you're watching this video and you genuinely want to make money and you genuinely give a fuck about what's on your chart, add this to your chart. Why do I tell you to do that? Well, you see that we bounced here, right? We also bounced here. We also broke above here, right? We rejected it. And then when we broke above, we retested it and we just pushed. So that's personally what I see for SMCI. I think that we get that move all the way back to all-time highs. Call me crazy. I think that it might happen. So this 936 area is going to be extremely important for us as well. And then we kind of just enter this gap, right? I mean, this massive downside of a move. So over that 936, I mean, who knows what happens realistically. However, I do think that we end up retesting this 972, possibly 1,000. That's what I'm going to say. My educated guess is going to be that we retest that $1,000 mark, and if we decide to reject there, then we decide to reject there. But I do think that we see a $200 bounce from here, a 20% move rather. May not happen overnight, may not happen in one day, but I genuinely, personally think that we end up seeing that move to the upside. So, honestly, insane. Again, I really wish I would have caught this. This would have been a banger of a trade. I mean, you had puts go from like 120 to like 10K, or $510 to 10K within 12 minutes. Something absolutely insane. So any type of, you bought one contract, you made 10 for every $510 you spent on this one specific contract. I can't really recall which one it was. For every single $510 you spent, you made $10,000. So $1,000 would have netted you $20,000. Insane move, possibly a generational move, who knows? But I do personally think that we end up going back up to this $1,000 level. If we decide to reject here, we decide to reject here. But if not, then we're going to see a massive push, in my opinion, back over all-time highs. So that's what I'm looking for on SMCI. Now, another name that obviously we know has been moving along with semiconductors is the semiconductor manufacturer themselves, right? ARM. Now, we ended up taking the 75 call. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous video, but we ended up taking the 75 call. They went from 320 to 32. Or I'm sorry, actually, I think they went to like 6,000-7,000 a piece. If not there, at least 5,000. So we definitely got over a 1,500% return. I ended up selling my last one. I only held one into that 1,000% range. So again, entirely dependent on Nvidia's earnings. This stock can continuously go. I mean, it's now a household name. It's now a household sweetheart. So we're going to have to see what the market provides, what Nvidia specifically provides. So what would I be looking for to the downside, however? I would love for a break of this 123 level, possibly taking us down to this 117.87 level. Now, as you can see, again, you're going to continuously hear me say that phrase a lot, by the way. So just FYI. Nonetheless, when we did break down from this level, we ended up seeing this 102. So a retest basically of this 100 level, pushing back up. And when we ended up retesting it, we rejected, consolidated for a bit, and absolutely blew through this level. So this 117.87 level, call it 118, is going to be extremely important for us if we decide to break down, right? And that would be a 10-point move from here alone. So below that, I would like to see this 115 area, 109 area, and then potentially this 107 down into that 100 level. That's realistically what I'd like to see for a breakdown. Now, for a break to the upside, we would just need to hold over 126.50. Personally, that's like, in my opinion, one of the more important levels for continuation. As we rejected it here, we sold a little bit through it here, bounced back up through it, and then continuously just traded within a range based off of it, right? So that's kind of what I see for ARM. To the upside, I would like to see a break of this 130 level. I mean, makes sense. Whole number, psych level, everything in between. That 130 into this 132. This 132 into potentially this 134.14 or 134.83. 134.83 to the upside, 137.45. Then 142.46, or actually before that, 140. And then, 145.98, 146. And then just continuously break back into these highs, right? That's kind of what I'd be looking for. 150 may be that level. We'll just have to see where buyers and sellers are and if we end up retesting this level. However, above that 150, we see this 155. Above that 155, we potentially see 164 into all-time highs again, right? So that's just all that I'm really looking for on the semiconductor manufacturer ARM.